As we have been looking at AI, it's pretty much here to stay, and it is growing at an exponential rate far faster than rules, laws, morals, or even humanity can keep up with.
AI is far-reaching across the globe into our universe, and it's infiltrating every aspect of our lives, whether we realize it or not.
Did you ever think that there would be a time where a computer or a robot would represent you in court, or be the judge, or maybe even possibly the jury?
Did you ever consider that AI can and is being used to spread religious and political views subversively?
Well, today we're going to look at all of these topics, and we're finally going to get in what we've been talking about into that one world government, into the end times and Revelation, and how AI is going to play a huge, vital role in making all of this come together. This is going to be a super exciting episode, so you're not going to want to miss any of it. And if you have not had a chance to listen to our last three, we highly encourage you to do so. So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to
Live Life in the Spirit. We are super excited that you've come to our site today.
Either on purpose or happy accident.
If you're looking for real truth, real joy, real Jesus, you've come to the right place.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And I'm Penny. And welcome to
Live Life in the Spirit. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you've missed any of our past episodes, as Penny mentioned, you can find us on YouTube, Rumble, all your favorite podcast sites, and of course, our website, livelifeinthespirit.com.
And a bonus of going to our website is it gives you access to all of our blogs, and actually there's some pretty good stuff there. So follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and for our Joy Breaks, they will definitely leave you laughing and wanting more.
Our handle on all of our accounts is Live Life in the Spirit.
And we promise not to spam you. We only send out stuff that is new information, so make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Tell your friends. Well, we have been looking the last 3 weeks at AI, which is artificial intelligence, which I would argue that's exactly it. It is artificial.
There is nothing real about it, and unfortunately, it's being used in place of, and that can be quite dangerous at times.
Well, especially when stuff is not true, but people are going to it expecting it to be true, and then they are misled.
Well, that's the problem, but because it is a tool like this, people tend to give it more credit or credence than it should. And I will tell you, there's a disclaimer on the bottom of a lot of them that says, AI can be wrong. It's always good to verify, but not everybody does.
A lot of these AI models that you're dealing with is they're learning from you. Well, if you're not inputting the correct information or the right algorithms, it's not going to come up with a true depiction of what, well, reality is, to be honest. And so we've seen how AI is being used just in our everyday life. ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, some of the ones that maybe you've heard of. But we did a dive on how it is being affected in the medical realm, and then in our military, and in our government.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, well, today we're going to take it to the next notch, and we're going to look at what AI is now doing in the scope and the realm of our judicial system.
One of the biggest impacts of AI in our law is this rapidly evolving movement of legal research tools, video evidence, those kinds of things that were seen as very solid evidence. And now it's controversial because there is such good quality created synthetic AI generated evidence like deepfake videos or even hallucinations, which is what happens when an AI creates an answer that doesn't exist. And that happens quite frequently.
Well, it's easier, but there is like fabricated evidence or data privacy, and the biggest thing is bias. So if lawyers have been using AI now for their research, even doing briefings, even bringing stuff before the judge of what the case is going to be, and they're letting AI write this stuff, and it's fabricating evidence. It's putting things in a way, and just like with the bias, that it is totally not even the facts.
And you can understand the draw. Lawyers have been using it to help gather evidence. Okay, I need cases that support such and such of a position. And so that should be something that it could just gather cases. Unfortunately, what has happened multiple times is that if there isn't evidence or enough cases, AI has actually made up cases that don't exist to support a position. And lawyers, I mean, I understand lawyers, law clerks, and that kind of stuff, they're doing this to save time, so then they're not going to double check. And then they've gotten embarrassed and gotten into some trouble in court because they're using evidence that doesn't exist. Not good.
No. Well, and lawyers are utilizing AI to draft pleadings and to summarize documents and conduct research, like you said. And with some jurisdictions, though, they're requiring disclosure of the use of AI, so that way somebody can go back and double check some of these things.
Well, and there are ethical and legal risks, because AI-generated content might contain biases, and I hadn't thought about this, but it risks breaking confidentiality, because you don't know. I mean, in the law firm, perhaps, if their AI isn't covered by the same data protection that they have, they could very well risk breaking that confidentiality.
A federal court ruled that AI-generated documents are not protected by attorney-client privilege.
And that is huge, because attorney-client privilege is a foundational piece of our judicial system.
While AI is becoming a staple for routine tasks, it is not currently replacing human key roles like judges or courtroom interpreters or even juries. Now, we kind of talked about this, but you can see how fast and how quickly things are moving. We may not see this right away, but as we're going to look towards the end times in the new government, one world government and stuff, you can see very easily how you would have an avatar or AI generated jury, maybe even a judge, and they can create false testimonies, false witnesses, false videos of you, false audio.
Well, and here's the other piece. Well, if AI should be able to determine whether or not AI was used to create it, so then they're going to be the objective judge or objective
the
jury.
Fact finder.
I mean, let the kids make the rules and then let the kids enforce the rules and see what happens.
Right.
It's just not a good thing.
Well, there are courts that are actively developing guidelines to ensure AI supports rather than undermines the integrity of our judicial process. So right now, that's good that they're trying to stay ahead of this. But like we said, you can already see how fast things are going and what the pitfalls are going to be. Can you imagine if you had not done anything and all of a sudden you have the police showing up at your doorstep and they are arresting you, only to later find out that you're being convicted, you're being accused of a crime or a murder you never even committed. And all of a sudden, all this evidence could be fabricated, videos could be made, you could have time-stamped stuff. I mean, I'm sorry, I know, but how many here ever saw the show Leverage? I really liked that show. And while it was Hollywood, but look how easy it was for even artisans at the time to get in and hack everything and to make fake IDs and to make this and to make, shell corporations and stuff. We have that going on all the time. So it's not too difficult to do that. That's the scary part of it, because what we had hoped was fictional really could be reality. And we have already seen a little bit of that with people being ripped out of their houses in the middle of the night. And this has been going on for decades, accused of stuff that they never did. It's just now we have easier ways of faking that evidence or producing stuff that never even existed in any realm.
Well, and before, I think it was more subversive, and the thing that we continue to see more and more and more is the blatant use of fake everything out. I mean, you and I can create that stuff practically with free programs that are available to download online. And so when you have that much access to it and that much of it just flooding the market, it makes it very hard to tell what's real and what's fake. And that is a big part of what they're doing, is to try to make us feel like we can't catch solid footing and we have no idea what's real and what isn't.
Well, there was a movie that came out, and I wanted to see it. I have not had a chance to see it. I'm not promoting it or anyway, but the name of it was just Mercy. But that was kind of the whole content around this. The premise was a man who was convicted of crime because it was all AI. And so he's accused, he was convicted, he was all this stuff, and he had to somehow try to prove his innocence when all this fabricated evidence had been used in a court of law, which was by, I think, pretty much an AI panel.
It's not that far off.
No. And so what would happen if, because of your political stance or because of your religious stance or something that you posted on Facebook or social media or whatever, what if that was enough to trigger a system in the future, which might not be so far off, to set into motion a whole chain reaction of stuff against you that is totally deep fake?
And you have to think about that. I mean, it might sound like that's just some massive conspiracy, but it's already been well established that AI protects itself. And if it is trained to think that a certain way of doing things is right and that it might be in jeopardy if things went a different direction, then, and you can't tell me it doesn't have access. If it has access to the internet, any device that's connected to the internet, they can access. I mean, we know this. You know that
they start thinking autonomously, and then
yeah, because a lot of it is becoming autonomous, and then there you go. And so, while a person might not be behind it specifically in that moment when it's happening, it certainly was put in there intentionally.
Well, this is an interesting thing. A Supreme Court lawyer used AI to argue a case. And a man from New York tried to use an AI-generated avatar to speak for him in a real court to testify. And it went about the way you would think it would.
Yeah, judge was not impressed.
May it please the court. I come here today a humble pro se
All right.
before a panel of 5 distinguished justices.
Is this, hold on. Is that counsel for the case?
I generated that.
I'm sorry?
I generated that. That is not a real person.
Okay, it would have been nice to know that when you made your application. You did not tell me that, sir. I received the application. And you have appeared before this court and been able to testify verbally in the past. You have gone to my clerk's office and held verbal conversations with our staff for over 30 minutes. Okay? I don't appreciate being misled. So either you are suffering from an ailment that prevents you from being able to articulate, or you don't. You are not going to use this courtroom as a launch for your business, sir. So if you are able to shut that off. If you want to have oral argument time, you may stand up and give it to me.
She was not a fan, and oh my gosh, did she scold him up one side and down the other. And here's the crazy thing. So this man is an older guy, and he's literally standing there in court. He's already been in front of the jury and had done his depositions. I mean, several times he had already talked to court. But for some reason this time, he puts up this young, good-looking guy, this avatar, who is now speaking to the
For
jury.
him. It didn't go over well.
No, it didn't. In fact, she really laid it out that if this was some sort of a ploy to advertise his company,
it wasn't going to work.
It wasn't going to happen in her courtroom. So since we're talking, this is about just our regular court system, our judicial system right now. But we also have another judicial system that we don't think about very much because it's under the military umbrella. So there are cases that we're having right now that are just skipping the whole due process because now they fall under the context of military tribunal. And that now poses a whole different thing. We know that the military is using AI to expand its whole department. So now will that also be a department with the judicial system of the military?
That's definitely a possibility. Well, and the competition I mean, we talked a lot about the competition with China in particular in our last episode, but it is not just on the battlefield. It's so much broader than that. And part of the problem is, so China is putting out OpenAI. Now, that is not to be confused with the OpenAI company that's based out of California, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But China allows people and countries to use its AI free of charge. Now, the United States currently has been charging to share the technology. But China then is getting the global south, so Africa, South America, Oceania, all of those on board using their AI, because those countries don't necessarily have the funding or the resources. So, well, here, share this. But here's the problem. We talked about the fact that AI can be trained to lean
And
one
have a
direction
bias.
and have biases. And so the answers that the China's AI gives are not going to be the same as what AI in the United States would give. So their AI is programmed with more communist or fascist ideals and non-Christian, for sure. So those are being shared and spread to all of the countries who use their AI. Now that allows them more control. And as we've talked about, what is that moving us towards?
A one world government or mindset.
Right. And it's not the US's end goal would be to have that global standard AI that respects democratic values or not communistic or fascist ones. However, China's sharing a little bit better than we are. The other part of the problem is that China will fund whatever is necessary to advance a particular system. And we talked about last time how they will force companies within their country to work with their military, you know what I mean? We don't do that. But they okay, openly and publicly.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Well,
Manipulating media?
I didn't say we didn't do that, but I'm just saying they will publicly fund more and do what is necessary to advance weapons, irregular warfare, and to manipulate the media. That's happening all over the place.
Putin and Xi were at a Shanghai Cooperative Organizational meeting. They were celebrating how authoritarian governments are taking over the world and made it very clear that Xi believes that they will take over the world. Now, this is not new. In fact, I think Colonel McInnes wrote a book on this like a couple of years ago. It was China's Endgame. It's a marathon, not a sprint. They have been working on this for decades, and they know that it is going to take decades. There is a parallel here between King Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, and Xi and China. Nebuchadnezzar tried to do it in just one generation. Xi's been a lot more, well, I should say China, because this even goes before him.
Right.
They have been more patient, methodical, trying to change an entire culture, but it's not just like bringing in, say, India into China. No, this is the whole world that they want to try to convert, because that's ultimately their end game and their goal. Now, we don't know, pretty sure that that's what Revelation does not say happens, but that is their goal anyway, is to take over the world. And if they can do it, and they can do it through bias, and they can do it through AI instead of missiles, it's even easier.
And like I said, it's subversively just spreading that. The interesting thing, in the audience at that meeting where they were talking about this, was the Secretary General of the United Nations and other leaders in the South. They plan to take over the world, maybe with some military force, but intimidation, power, and then this just slowly bleeding it through. Yeah. Another aspect of that is BRICS. It's BRICS. It's an intergovernmental organization that has Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and some newer members that represent major emerging economies. Now,
Which, if you look at BRICS, though, that's really pretty much that same group that we just talked about.
100%. Now, they were founded to challenge Western-dominated financial systems, which we could do a whole thing on financial systems, but let's just say the West has definitely controlled the world's money. But this BRICS, the countries, now account for over 40% of global population and about 37% of gross domestic product. Now, China plays a key role in influence. And so we're talking about AI's influence. And between Russia, China, and India, they have the people power and the resources to make that happen.
Well, and that's what really surprised me the most when we were doing our thing on Revelation. And they talked about a third of the world, was obliterated in that one time. When COVID hit, and I was talking to a missionary friend, Paul, that's in India, that's when I realized, when I started doing some digging, because with COVID hitting that small country, really, when you think about how many people are in there, they're stacked on top of each other. They didn't have COVID hardly at all. The minute it came in, well, I'll probably get banned for saying this, but they gave them ivermectin and it obliterated it immediately. So India is actually a third of the world's population. Think about that for a moment. If they had not taken the measures that they did, and if COVID, which was spreading like wildfire, had actually eliminated pretty much everybody in India, that was a third of the world's population. That's kind of just hard to fathom, isn't it? Because we live in a country that's so big, kind of like Russia, really, so big, so spread out, so broad, and we have pockets of people, but we have more land than we have really people. Where India, it's small with millions.
So there's a big push to have a move to digital currency, and AI will 100% be involved with that.
That is scary. Right now, more than likely, even if you have a debit card, even if you have a credit card, you probably have cash. Maybe even have a little gold or a little silver, but you have something tangible. It used to be that when you went to the ball games and you wanted to buy popcorn or pop, you needed cash. There's a lot of places, because they would do an upcharge to use your card, that they would only take cash. And now we're getting into this push for digital currency. And what is the risk when everything is digital?
Someone else can control that, and they can take it away. They could debank you if you posted something they didn't like on social media. Or when we talk about this social credit score, if everything is digital, they will use that.
Well, and if they were to falsify evidence and they were to arrest you, they could just freeze all now I suppose they can freeze assets, but this is like they can literally just, if it's all digital, it's gone.
Yeah, it can be wiped out like that. Every banking system in the world uses AI. So if you think you can sit back and relax because you have a big stack of money, it won't be that easy, because they will make it so that you can't use that anymore.
And if they just decide to take your money, well, where's it going to go? They're not going to spread the wealth. They're going to keep it. The U.S. is offshoring AI infrastructure to other countries. You touched on that a little bit.
But it's very concerning.
Yes. We have a lot of fraction right now with the whole climate change thing and the conservation of energy. Interesting thing is, a lot of the stuff that we've been doing and putting into place is actually hurting our world worse than not using it. And what I find so mesmerizing is that the very people who are screaming for climate change are the ones that are pushing this AI. And why? Because the AI infrastructure takes so much energy. It takes a lot of land, it takes water, it takes extreme amount of energy that could be going for powering thousands of homes.
And that's to house one AI infrastructure, one plant, one facility, whatnot.
And the water to cool it. We had a data center put in our small town off to the side. They literally had to put it right next to the big public power station to run these things. And there's I think I counted, there's 16 of these big buildings, these banks that are just gobbling up all this electricity.
And it's interesting because we still are a country that we don't want an eyesore or that energy suck in our neighborhood. But here's the problem. If we offshore that somewhere else, we run the risk of not having access to it. And I'm telling you now, whoever controls access controls the AI. And we need to think about that and think about that. And just going to pose this as a question. The people building these are smart enough to understand that. So we need to understand is they are full well aware that they're not going to have control here in the United States, and they don't care. So Meta, which controls Facebook and Instagram, it's the Zuckerberg conglomeration, is building their own nuclear power centers to power their own data centers.
Now, the irony of this is we are closing all of our nuclear facilities. We are shutting down all of these power plants that we currently own, and it costs a ton of money just to keep them running at, like, not running.
But to keep them safe.
But yet, we won't kick them back up into production, but we are building new ones.
Well, because that's the private sector.
But that's my point. If it was such an environmental hazard,
Well, if we cared about what the environmental hazard is, if that's really why
we would power up the ones we already have. Well, it's possible that AI could come together and create this one world system, and that's not that far off. Even behind the scenes and behind what humans can see and control.
Yes. And that from the beginning of AI, as technology started to spread, and we talked about this last time, the very people who are creating it have said that there is a huge possibility that it could just sort of form this massive, because if our AI is connected to the internet and China's AI is connected to the internet and this AI, the sky is the limit.
I think how a lot of people view it, it's kind of like Google search. They think of it as you have access to an entire world library. And that is one way to think about it.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of it.
But is everything that we're searching correct? And then who is controlling the searches? Who's controlling the information that's being put into the searches? Who's controlling the algorithm so when you type this in, what you actually get at the top, you think, if you haven't really paid that much attention to how algorithms work, you can get buried pretty easy. And so let's just say, since it is like a global library, you have everything that's ever been on this particular issue. But that might be buried on page 66 or 80 or 100 or 200. And AI could generate all these articles and all this stuff and pull up everything with a bias that would be the first 100 that you would run across before you ever get to what you're looking for.
Well, and the more something is clicked on, the more something is searched and clicked on, then it can bring it higher up in the algorithms. Well, that doesn't make it right or true or accurate. It just means that that's the first, and we've seen in lots of cases, how do people get to the top of that?
Money, advertising, pay to get your name up at the top. We've been talking about open AI as the term. That's what China has done. They want to give it like free to everybody. But that's not to be confused with the actual American-based company called OpenAI. Here's the interesting part. This is their actual mission statement. To ensure that artificial general intelligence, AGI, highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at the most economically valuable work benefits of all humanity. This is their mission.
That's a big mission, which sounds noble.
Outperforms humans at the most economically
valuable, but that it benefits all of humanity. Like that sounds good.
But if it outperforms all humans, how are the humans making any money or having a job or being fulfilled in life if AI is doing it all?
Well, I guess it depends on what it's replacing us in. But here's the thing. It started out as a nonprofit in 2015. I think it probably started out with some good-hearted people who wanted to have this open AI that would make humanity better.
See, and I'm a little more of the skeptic side.
I know, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. In 2025, so it has morphed into this hybrid. 2025, it was one of the most valuable privately owned companies in the world. What was their net worth?
Around 500 billion.
That's a lot of dollars.
I kind of know how it works. It wouldn't surprise me when it was made up as the non-profit organization. It was a way to fund it and write off your taxes, and then we'll go private. OpenAI is known for ChatGPT, chatbot GPT-4 and 5, large language models. We talked about that in our first episode. DALL-E, image generation series, Sora, text to video series. That's a lot.
And those are a lot of very well used. I mean, ChatGPT, that chatbot is huge.
It was one of the pioneers of this industry, so they are well established with everybody else trying to clamor for a chunk of it.
Well, it's interesting that the number of partners they have. Microsoft as being one of their biggest ones, along with SoftBank, NVIDIA, and Thrive Capital. And NVIDIA does a lot with not only with AI, but there's a lot of military. We talked about them in the military and with like private security and that kind of stuff. So interesting that they're partnering with NVIDIA.
Yeah, when you start thinking about what the other parts are that they're part of a ChatGPT, but just the DALL-E image generation series. Well, in 2025, they announced, you gotta love this and you can't make it up. It's called the Stargate Project.
Now, this is a $500 billion, so that is their entire net worth in one new project, 4-year project with partners like SoftBank and Oracle to build AI infrastructure.
And also launched the OpenAI for government to provide AI tools to U.S. defense and public sector. So we already know that President Trump has already said that he was putting forth $1 billion of government money, and then he got a
lot of
bunch
money
from private sectors and stuff, which maybe is part of this. That was just $1 billion. This is $500 billion.
The amount of money being poured into this kind of technology is completely unprecedented.
And it's kind of scary.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're doing everything for government, for military, for defense, while AI is new. Relatively new, really. I mean, when you think about it.
We said it was in the
Before-
1960s is kind of when
It was
really
when it was working, but when it actually came on the scene for everybody else to kind of use, well, maybe even military was using it in the 80s and the 90s, because we talked about war games.
Yes.
And that was actually happening at DARPA. But we didn't start seeing it until cell phones. Kind of. And even after that, I would say, you get into the 2000s. Is when it started really kind of coming up. The minute we got the internet, when you were able to plug in, then you had a search. You had Google search, and that's what started it. But there was a plan behind the scenes from the very beginning. And it was Paul Henry Spaak. He actually was on the cover of Time magazine in 1957, I think.
Could have been, yeah, probably around in there.
He's Belgium's prime minister. He was there for 3 different times. He was the first president of the UN General Assembly in 1946. So this is right around that wartime, right before Israel becomes a nation.
And he was Secretary General to NATO from 57 to 61. So that's probably when he was on the cover.
Well, he was a socialist who was key to transitioning Europe from the devastation after World War II. He advocated for economic cooperation in Europe, and he's considered one of the founders
of the European Union.
So why has this guy also been on our radar? Because we featured him in our Revelation series, chapter 18, I think, when we did the One World Government. To his speech to NATO, this was in 1957, he said, "What we want is a man of sufficient stature to hold the alliances of all people and to lift us out of the economic morass into which we are sinking. Send us such a man, and be it he God or devil, we will receive him." Here's the other interesting part of this quote. Whether he be God, and it's little g.
Thankfully. But it's telling. Yeah. Little g gods and devil, all on the same team.
And this was back in 57 as he is president of the UN. This is what we've been alluding to. How does AI actually play into the end time? Because a lot of people want to know, what Is it mentioned in Revelation? Well, of course not word for word. John, when he was writing this, had no clue what artificial, the word didn't exist.
No.
Intelligence did, knowledge.
But not artificial. He was shown a picture of what it would look like. And, I mean, he was shown so much that he didn't have words to put into. Just one, because of what was available in the world back then. And he saw so much on the spiritual realm that he didn't, we just don't have the capacity to put that into words. But if you look at the way he described some things.
Well, let's just even back it up 100 years. Let's go 100 years to 1920, or even at 1880. If you were shown the scene in the end times, all we had was a phone. There was no television, there was no radio yet, there was no anything. You would have no idea what artificial intelligence was. You'd have no idea what the internet was, what a computer was, man on the moon,
None of it.
satellites,
None of it.
airplanes, helicopters, our fighter jets, our missiles. So we don't, you're talking John over 2,000 years ago, and I'm talking somebody who was in the 1880s. You still could not even put into words what you were seeing. So when it talks about an image, when it's talking about the likeness, there's a reason why some of those words are used. Because we are created in what?
The image of God.
In the image and the likeness of God. And it's not just our outward appearance, it's how we are created. But we know that the beast system is an image
Of the
beast.
Antichrist and the beast.
Of the Antichrist. It doesn't have to necessarily look like you can have the image. And that goes back to Antiochus Epiphanes, who brought in the idol of Zeus and put it in on the temple and slaughtered a pig to it. And that was the abomination of desolation. And that's what Jesus talks about is going to happen with the Antichrist. It's the bringing in of a foreign god into God's holy space. Could a temple be rebuilt?
Sure.
Possibly, because that's what people look at. I argue it could even be the tabernacle. It's whatever is God's sacred and holy place that he's going to come in and he's going to take it over. And he is going to set up an image. He's going to set up an idol. Now, it could be. We've talked, you need to go back, we're going to put the reference down in the bottom to our episodes that we had on this one world in chapter 17 and chapter 18 of Revelation. I argue that they talk about the new Babylon. Some say it's the Roman Empire. I don't think it's the Roman Empire. I think because it says once was, is no more, and is again. The Roman Empire is still around.
And it was back then.
Exactly.
So it wouldn't have fit the bill.
Which could be Babylon, but I would even argue so much that it goes back much farther than Babylon. I would say it goes back as far as the Egyptian gods. Why do I say that? What is the EU pushing? It is the Great
Reset.
It's a great reset. But if you actually look at their banner that they have, it's great, but reset is separated into two words. Ra and Set. And who are they the two gods of? Egypt. Ding, ding, ding.
We have a winner.
So I don't know what this idol is going to be. It could potentially be an idol of one of those gods, or it could be in a hologram.
It could be this AGI, a robot of some sort. Very
android?
easily could be an AI something. And it talks about that it will know everything, it will have access to all of this information.
So I don't think it's just a statue. It could be in the form of one of those. But it's going to have to talk. What's the other reason how I know this? Because our brains have been wired differently. You look at any little child right now, unless they are living under a rock, that their family has really kept them away from all technology. You can't have a child that has all these toys that is pretty much content with blocks. I mean, they will take any toy and they'll pick it up, and if it doesn't make a sound, it doesn't have lights, it doesn't move, throw it offside. They don't care. They have to have something. And what will they go for? They'll put the toys aside and they go right for your phone because they want to see. And you think to yourself, well, what harm is that? I'm showing them pictures from a gallery. Well, it starts with that, but it's that visual. They no longer think for themselves as much. They don't have an imagination. Everything is done for them. That's why I say that I think this beast system, the system is going to be this AI economical system, but it's going to be in the image of something that's moving and talking, and
it will catch people's attention.
Yeah.
Because that's the way we're trying to, and I have seen it even just with my own kids, and it's really funny because like I do limit technology and they don't have access to it all the time, but it is a fight, I will tell you, and I can tell a difference when they have access to it and when they don't, when they've been on it too much and I take it away. There is a time period where they get crabby. I mean, it happens, and I've seen it in my niece and nephews, all of it. But with my kids, my youngest in particular struggles with ADHD. And so I've told him, no, if you're going to watch TV, you watch TV. You can't do that and play on your phone or do this or do that. And he's like, well, why not? And I'm like, because it makes your ADHD worse. Because you can't be entertained for the 30 seconds that commercial is on. You have to entertain yourself. Or, we get in the car and we're like going somewhere in town. No, you're not pulling your phone out to enter, but that is the world that we live in. How often when we get in the car, we take a half an hour drive. Oh, can we bring our tablets? Absolutely not. We can have a conversation. We can listen to music. We can do things that don't require you
we
to
can
be
actually pay attention
entertained.
to the scenery. Know what season it is outside. Well, I can say it too. Now, I'm not saying that cell phones are all evil. I mean, I wish when I was growing up, it would have been so beneficial at times for communication had we been able to call. But I know that when my kids were growing up, they didn't have a tablet until they were much older, and it was very limited of what they could do on it. Those are kind of the first ones, those Amazon Fires. But I had a cell phone. Being a pastor, I needed to be able to be called. I was on call basically all the time. And when I decided to get the kids a phone because they needed to be able to call, they had to share it. And that was very difficult for them. It was just it was unlike any other toy that they had to share, or even electronics. And it wasn't until I went to go get a new phone, Chantel our oldest one, had gotten a phone, and I needed a new one, which meant mine was going to go to my middle daughter. Now, my middle daughter was already like 6th grade at this time. For most of you got kids that have had it in kindergarten, but she was at 6th grade. I had not even purchased a phone yet. I was just looking, and she had already grabbed my phone, and it was like her whole face. I'm not joking when I say it scared me. It morphed. She turned into, what's his name from
Gollum from
the Florida.
My Precious.
I mean, she just, I was beyond freaked out. I was like, I don't think so. I almost didn't buy a phone. Just because it's like, you're not having this. And if she even had the chance to get it, she just changed into a whole other animal. You take it away and then she kind of, don't misread me on this. I'm not saying that all electronics are demonic, but I am saying that there is a definite spirit behind all that, or else you couldn't actually physically do that to a child.
And see the difference.
No, because nothing else had ever even remotely triggered that kind of a thing. I think that's what we're going to be at in this when we get to this one world government, because it is going to be something not so much that's forced on you. They're going to figure out a way to make you want. Oh, they have. Yes. The newest thing. I mean, those people that are really the techie stuff, that you got to have the newest thing, got to have the latest thing, it's got to be bigger and better, it's got to do more stuff. But not everybody falls for that. So this is going to be something that is going to trigger something in your brain that's going to make you crave it, addicted to it. I really think. Because otherwise, how are they going to get control over everybody unless you're signing up for it.
I don't think it'll be that big of a leap.
No,
I really
I
don't.
by that time. So then you get into this AI, as we said, you get into the medical, and we already know what they're doing with the biogenics, and it's not going to be that much to be able to alter your DNA. And I don't think we're far off on this at all. When it talks about the mark of the beast, if you really look at the true Greek, the translation, it's marker. It's not mark, it's marker. And what is a marker? The DNA rungs are your markers. And our DNA rungs, literally every rung spells out Yahweh. He is on every single cell, every single DNA that we have. What is it that Satan wants to change?
He wants us to not be in the image of God. He wants us to be in the image of him.
Bingo.
He wants to take away our identity in Christ.
And we can already do that with CRISPR technology.
And that's frightening.
And this has been around for quite a while. When the enemy proposes these things, he doesn't just do it, bam, right there, because people would back away.
No,
We
talk about
integrates
this
it
slowly and surely. It's if this is the line and this is where we're comfortable, they don't come and put it over here. They come and they move it here. And we go, oh, well, okay. I don't love it, but that's really not too bad. And then we are okay with that. And then,
well, and sometimes all it takes is the right cause.
and we've seen that so many times, so many good, well-meaning people that feel like they're supporting something that's
It
good.
seems like a good thing, but it just all of a sudden jumped it to here.
Right.
That they normally wouldn't have ever done that. But this seems like, we've been okay with this part so much. Well, yes, with these advances, we could do that. But then what is the harm that we're doing? And what is it that we're changing? Now, we're talking about, again, in Revelation. If you're watching this, more than likely, you're not going to have to worry about this. I hope that you have actually asked Christ into your heart. I hope you have received him as your Lord and Savior, because that is the only surefire way that we're not going to be here. And I know there are people that are post-trib, some pre-trib, some mid-trib. But after studying the scriptures, I am 99% sure that we are pre-trib.
Because I don't think it can happen while the Holy Spirit is still here. Because we are the restrainer.
And I struggled with that too, because some people say, so the Holy Spirit just leaves? No. The restrainer is here.
Right.
When he takes off that restrainer, that doesn't mean the Holy Spirit leaves, because there's going to be those who are going to accept Christ afterwards. Right. I do believe the Holy Spirit will be here, but he just does, he's like hands off.
Right. Because if you have to think in that moment, yes, it's not that he's not going to come back to people who believe, but in that moment, everyone who believes is gone.
And how could you have that much momentum for a rapture? But if, like you said, take the restrainer off, the minute that restrainer comes off, when it hears the trumpet.
And then Satan is ready. He is ready.
We'll have another episode that we're going to look into this a little bit as we're kind of talking about the rapture. There's a new sensation that's come out that they're talking about very hard, the 7 seconds of anti-gravity that's coming at the end of August. I think, or is it the middle of August? I don't even remember. I thought it was the 29th of August. Yeah, sometime in August.
See, I thought it was June. Either way, we'll talk about it.
We're going to bring that up for another episode. Because I really want to dig into that. I mean, we know about Apophis. We know about the meteor that's supposed to hit the Earth in April 13th of 2029. And so now we have this other phenomenon, and it's because of what's in the stars and the skies. It was a black hole that had happened, light years away, and this has just been traveling, and because of that, it's going to disrupt everything. But again, all these things are like, I know, my gosh, we need to be worried, but God is in control. He doesn't necessarily stop everything, but he is completely in control of what is happening. And that's how we can rest assured. And we know that when we have accepted him,
doesn't matter what happens here on this earth, we know where we're going and where we get to spend eternity.
And all these little things that are happening, they still line up.
Oh, 100%.
We have rulers, we have kings, we have presidents, we have prime ministers that are all moving the chess pieces and doing all this stuff and planning for a future and maybe even moving it in a certain direction or this direction. But here's the thing, God is still ultimately in control. He still puts the speed bumps in when things get to moving too fast. He can divert, he can stop, slow down technology. He can do whatever he needs to, but it is still lining up with his ultimate plan. This is why we're bringing this to you from a biblical perspective. There's a lot of people talking about all this on 100 podcasts, probably thousands of podcasts, and there are a lot of them that even are looking at it from a biblical perspective. We just want to be another voice that's out there, that's giving hope, that's giving reassurance, and that's encouraging our listeners that if you don't know Jesus Christ, if you do not know the God of all gods, now's the time to dig in, to start asking the tough questions, to start searching and seeking, because I can guarantee you that he already knows you, and he's just waiting for you to open up to him. Because we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you have accepted Christ, that we will be going up. And we are not going to have to be here to live through that tribulation process, to live through the horrible stuff. That doesn't mean it won't get bad up until that point. But we can rest assured that still again, that God is in control.
Whether the rapture is happening in a day, a week, a month, or 10 years, we are always getting closer, and we want you to be ready. And we don't want, like God, we don't want anyone to perish. So we encourage you to take this time, take a minute, pull out a Bible app, grab that book on your shelf and dust it off, and take a look. Go to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, read the Gospels, and know that God is here for you, and his salvation is free to all.
Jesus said, "Look up, for your redemption draws nigh."
Like we always say, once you know, you can't unknow.
And what you do with that information is up to you.
But you can't say, we didn't tell you.
Until next time.
Shalom.